Today we are going to go through min-max sum, which is a problem under warm-up algorithm section of HackerRank. So without wasting time, let us have a look on the problem statement. Here's the problem statement. Given 5 positive integers, find the minimum and maximum values that can be calculated by summing exactly 4 of the 5 integers. Then print the respective minimum and maximum value as a single line of 2 space separated long integer. Okay, so before going forward, I would strongly advise you to have a look on the problem statement and try to solve it by yourself. By doing that, you will really be able to get out the most of this content. Okay, now let us continue. This is the example. We have an array with this element, and they are saying the minimum sum is this and the maximum sum is this. So how do we achieve the minimum sum and the maximum sum? This is an explanation of what we are supposed to do. So we can do the sum of all the elements without the first one, the sum of all the elements without the second one, and so on. So we are going to make a sum of all the elements without a specific index, and at the end we are going to compare all the various results, and from those results we are going to get the minimum and the maximum. This is one way of solving this problem, but I won't implement my solution using this approach because this approach is basically a complexity big O of n squared. If you take a look of the solution, you can see that you can achieve the result by using a big O of n complexity algorithm. How are we going to achieve big O of n complexities? We can see that for you to have the maximum value, you need to remove the minimum element of your list, because if you remove the minimum element, for sure, for all of the different possibility, you will have something always less than that, because you have removed the minimum element, which remove actually the minimum value of the sum of all the elements, and it's the same to achieve the minimum. To have the minimum, you should remove the maximum element of your array. So this is the array here. We have here the various elements. We can see that the minimum element, for instance, in this array is 1. And you can see that by summing all the elements except 1, you always have the maximum value. And this is the maximum element of the array. By removing all the elements except this one, you always have the minimum value of the array. So by thinking this way, we can implement something of big O of n. So without wasting time, let us implement what we just described as our approach. So I'm gonna remove all this boilerplate code. I'm gonna remove this. Okay. I'm gonna remove this also. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a vector of int of size 5, since we have 5 elements. Sorry. And I'm gonna read the element of my array. So now I have my array. After I have my array, now I need to loop through all the elements. What I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna sum all the elements of the array. So I have the sum of the element of the array. I'm gonna have the minimum of the array and the maximum of the array. So I have 3 variables. The first one will store the sum of the minimum of the array. Let's call it like this. The second one, the maximum, and the third one, the sum of the array. And since I want to go through all the elements of the array, I prefer to initiate the first element. So the first element of my array will be the minimum, like this. The second element, the first element also to be the maximum. under the sum of the element, I will take it as the first element. By doing this, I can have an array here starting from 1, 5. Yeah, what we are going to do is this. For all the elements, we want the sum of all the elements of the array. So we are going to append this. And what we want to do is that we want to also have the minimum and the maximum at the end of our for loop. So we are going to perform a condition here. If the index of the element we are seeing is actually less than the minimum, then the minimum gonna take the element, right? And if the element we are having is greater than the maximum, then our maximum gonna take the element. So at the end of this for loop, we are going to have the sum. We are going to have our minimum and our maximum. And what we can do here, we can just see out. The first element we need to have is the minimum sum. So it will be the sum minus the maximum element, right? And after the sum minus the maximum element, we need a space. After a space, we need to print the sum minus the minimum element, which is actually the maximum sum. So let us run this and see what it gives. I hope everything is okay. We have congratulations. So everything is actually green. Let us submit and see if it passed all the test cases. Okay, we can see that we are failing some test cases. Why are we failing some test cases? Whereas our algorithm is okay, we have the sample test cases. Okay, so let us have a look of the input. We can see that the input of the element will be from 1 to n power of 9. So this means that we know that we are storing all of our elements in integer. So it's okay because the maximum value of integer is greater than 10 power of 9. But we know that if we sum 9 of this, if we sum 5 of this element, like if we sum 5 of 10 power of 9, we are going to have a result that will be greater than the maximum value of integer. So we need to find a way to store our sum of the element in something bigger than integer. So what we can do to achieve that, we can remove this here and have a long instead. And let us compile this and see what it gives now. And now we have everything green. So you can see that just using a type that can be able to contain a large number, we are able now to have the sum of element of 4 elements with this big number, with this value. So I really advise you, whenever you are facing this situation, always check the content of your input and see if what you choose as a type will always be enough to contain the output you are trying to display to the user. So here's my approach of solving this. There's another approach that can be used to achieve the same result by using built-in C++ function. So let me introduce to you some of C++ built-in function that can help us achieve the same result with using less number of instructions. Okay, so we have this first function, min-max element, which can help you get the minimum and the maximum element of an array, of a vector. And we have this function that can help you accumulate. So this function will return you the sum of the element of the array. So we can see that we can make use of those two functions to have the min-max, the sum. We're just gonna output one instruction for the difference between the sum and the sum minus the maximum and the sum minus the minimum. Let us implement it. Here we have auto, let's say min-max, let us call it like this. We get the min-max of element of adult. Begin, comma, end. And we're gonna have the sum, which would be accumulate so here we have our sum and our min-max element, so we don't need this anymore. From this we can just make su minus. So as we saw in the the min-max element, to have the maximum is actually the min-max. You need to start the min-max element dot second, and here we have the min-max dot first. You have them here. So min-max dot first we give you the min, and the second we give you the max. So let us run and see what it gives. So we see everything is still green. So it's okay. Let us submit and see if everything is we have everything green. So we can see we still have some test cases that are failing. Why are they failing? It is basically the same reason of the previous failure we were just facing. This accumulate is taking here the first element, and since you are passing the first element 0, we basically try to accumulate and store the element in an integer, which will return an error or invalid number if the sum of the element will exceed the maximum value that integer can support. So how can we resolve this? We can basically have our integer, yes, we can have it like this, and here we put the SU. So now we are still starting with 0, but just that the 0 is actually a 0 of long. So by doing this, we should be able to have everything green. So let us run and see what it gives. So we can see now everything is green. So I really enjoy going through this exercise because it made me use some built-in function, and it was interesting. So I hope it was also interesting for you. I will really enjoy having your comment, your feedback on this. Feel free to comment, share. See you on the next video.